there's a new threat which turns this on its head. We now see the use of online disinformation campaigns, and by disinformation I mean both in terms of content, but more importantly, in terms of behavior, mass armies of trolls and bots and so on who pretend to be real people but aren't.
But what it does is, when it is a battle for facts, journalism becomes activism. And this is something that I think journalists all around the world don't want to embrace. And that also has us handcuffed, right? It took me a long time to be able to say journalism is activism. It did start as activism a long time ago. It is back to that now, because without facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust.
And while we live in a time of really exciting opportunity and possibility, at the same time, the last year has shown us to be also in a state of peril. You know, the traditional adversaries are still at work, but now new threats have emerged.
What concerns me more is the fact, I mean, knowing this as a journalist, that those messages that led to so many killings were manufactured, politically manufactured.
And you know, when you're talking about Russia and disinformation, of course, it's not only how they're communicating with their own audience, but how they're communicating cross borders to countries where there are still a lot of Russian speakers, a legacy of the Soviet Union, a lot of people who are still consuming news and information in Russia.
So when you don't have truth, where do you get trust? And so going forward, that is going to be an area, as we just heard in the last panel, that we are going to have to seek out those mechanisms, those structural aspects and elements that allow us to regain trust in our information ecosystems. And that's going to include accountability from our leaders, from our government. That's going to include accountability on media. That's going to include accountability on our social media platforms.
New technologies, as useful as they are, provide another venue for threats. Dictators increasingly use the new technology to silence journalists, to separate us from our audience, to impact on the quality of our good journalism.
We are living through the worst press freedom crisis in recent history.
They threaten you, they send you messages through friends in common, let's say, and basically they start to dissolve or dismantle a lot of free media that were in the country.
The authorities started co-opting and controlling all the big media organizations gradually by owning, merging, dismissing or laying off professional journalists, harassing them. You can also say that at the end there is a huge brain drain in Egypt now when it comes to journalists and media professionals. During election 2020 in Tanzania, we faced a blockage from the state, not the state, I mean say, directly from internet service providers. All social media platforms were blocked, including our site JamiForbes.com.
We interviewed several leading Chinese feminists who have been silenced, harassed, bullied, and even arrested to discuss the past and the future of feminist movement in China.
The greatest hope for fundamental change in how the press is treated around the world has to lie in the United States government taking a guiding role